Hi, fourth graders. Today we are going to read the second story in our theme, which is the volcano disaster. So this is going to be the second story. Yesterday we read Lost on a Mountain in Maine. So quickly we'll go over our vocabulary words and we'll get started reading the story. Our first vocabulary word today is erupt, and erupt means to shoot forth lava, ash, and rock. Then we have ridge, which is the line formed by two slopes when they meet. Awestruck means full of fear and wonder. Ash is a powdery burned material. Debris is the scattered remains of something broken. React is to act in response to something. And cinders are pieces of burned or partially burned material. Remember, you're going to have to do a worksheet with these words, just like we did yesterday for the words that went with Lost on a Mountain in Maine. So let's get started reading our story, The Volcano Disaster by Peg Carrot. One afternoon, Warren Spaulding is tinkering with the instant commuter, a time machine his grandfather invented. When his friend Betsy stops by to discuss their project about Mount St. Helens, Warren tries to hide the time machine from her. In the confusion, a picture of the volcano accidentally touches the time machine. Suddenly, Warren finds himself sent back in time to May 18th, 1980, the day that Mount St. Helens erupts. Racing against time, Warren dashes down the lower slopes of the volcano, hoping to stay one step ahead of history. Warren raced on. Partway down the second ridge, he looked at his watch again. 8:31. Maybe he had remembered the time wrong. Maybe the mountain didn't erupt at 8:30. He stopped running and took a deep breath. He stuck his right foot out in front of him, straightened the leg, and hung his head toward his knee, stretching out his tired leg muscles. He held the pose for a few seconds and did the same thing with his left leg. While he stretched, he watched the mountain warily. Just as he straightened up, the ground dropped from beneath his feet and he fell backward onto the gravel road. A low rumbling noise like a faraway freight train coming through the forest filled the air. Warren scrambled to his feet and looked back. Sections of the top of the mountain were shifting downward. It was as if a huge knife had sliced through one side of the volcano, cutting 3 big pieces loose from the top. The pieces slid quickly, one after another. Too awestruck to run, Warren stared as the gigantic slabs moved down the side of the volcano. As they fell, a plume of steam rose from the top of the volcano. Almost immediately, the steam turned dark. It must be volcanic ash, Warren thought, or some sort of gas. It ballooned upward like an enormous black cauliflower filling the sky. More ash came from the face of the landslide. At the same time, an even bigger cloud of ash and debris shot sideways out of the mountain from the opening created when the pieces slid down. The volcano was erupting sideways, just as Betsy's article had said. The clouds quickly merged into one huge mass as volcanic debris blasted from inside the volcano. The ash plume was enormous, and when it mixed with the landslide debris, it became a thick, dark wind. It's as if someone set off tons of dynamite inside the mountain, Warren thought. Instead of just one single blast like a bomb would be, this was a sustained explosion that kept coming and coming. He wished he had brought his camera, but even without pictures, Warren knew he would never forget this sight. He also knew he could not stand and watch any longer. He had already wasted precious seconds because he had been too shocked to react. He turned and continued to race down the far side of the ridge. It was much hotter now than it had been before. He felt the heat on his back first and then all around him. The ground seemed to burn through the bottom of Warren's shoes. Splat! A mud ball landed beside him, splashing his jeans. Another mud ball landed on his shoulders. Warren cried out and tried to shake the hot mud off his shirt without touching it. Splat! Splat! It was like being in a mammoth snowball fight, except these balls were scorching hot. There was no way to dodge them. Some landed in front of him, some behind, and some on either side. One hit him on the top of the head. Warren bent over, shaking the mud out of his hair. His scalp felt burned. He touched his hair with his fingers, feeling he might have a bald spot where the mud ball had landed. His hair felt brittle, but it was still where it belonged. He heard what he thought was someone else running. Looking over his shoulder, he saw a panicked deer bounding from the forest. The sky grew dark, the way it did before a heavy rain, and then darker still. Ash dropped quickly, covering the road with a layer of gray. It was like running through newly fallen snow. The old nursery song echoed crazily in Warren's mind. Ring around the rosy, a pocket full of posies, ashes, ashes, all fall down. In less than 5 seconds, the sky had gone from bright sunshine to total darkness. Flaming cinders rained down, sparking several fires. Fear made him run faster, his muscle aches forgotten. Warren choked and coughed with every breath. What does volcanic ash do to human lungs, he wondered. Was inhaling it like smoking 1,000 cigarettes? He bent his arm and buried his nose and mouth in his elbow, trying to breathe in as little ash as possible. The air was black as a bowling ball. Warren could no longer see the road. The only light came from the burning cinders and the bolts of lightning which now zapped the air above him, one after another. Some of the lightning was orange, some was green, but Warren was too concerned about getting to safety to wonder about the colors. The gravel beneath his feet felt as if it had just come out of a hot oven, like the warming stone that his mother put on the bottom of the bread basket to keep dinner rolls warm. Warren coughed harder. Once on a Boy Scout camping trip, Warren had stirred the campfire with a stick to be sure it was out before he left. Smoke and ash had risen and filled his nostrils. This air smelled like the charred remains of that campfire, only this was worse. Here, he couldn't turn his head away and gulp in fresh air.